Hello, this is Bill Worrell with Virginia Cooperative Extension. For today's episode of 15 Minutes in the Forest, I'm going to take you to meet with a private consulting forester where we will learn how he can help manage your land.
My name is Kevin Belt. I'm consulting forester and owner at Appalachian Forestry, located in Johnson City, Tennessee. I am a consulting forester who works for private landowners in Tennessee, in Kentucky, in West Virginia, occasionally in North Carolina, and certainly in Southwest Virginia.
In the previous video, Kevin Belt discussed how he works with landowners to help them achieve their forest management objectives. In today's video, Kevin will walk through the timber sale process.
My next step then is the timber measurement. I want to report to my landowner a timber volume summary. There are two field methods that I use for most of that work. First is the most simple, and that is the 100% tally method. That is very simply marking a tree one at a time. You measure the DBH, diameter breast height, of that tree. You measure the merchantable height of that tree. You record those, and when you can take them back to the home office, or then you're able to calculate the board foot volume. That's called the 100% tally. That does not mean that I'm marking 100% of the trees, but it does mean that I have measured 100% of the trees that we have chosen to cut and marked. It does involve marking and painting. Obviously, that would need to be a different color than the boundaries, so I leave all kinds of colors out in the woods when I'm done. The other method, and this is actually a more commonly used method, especially for bigger tracts and where clear cuts are the objective, well, then I will use the sample plot cruise method. It is actually a statistical sample. I will set up a grid on a map of the property. I will go visit each grid point one at a time. I will take volume measurements of trees that fall within that plot or within that plot center. And once all of that project is done, I take it back to the home office, make all of my calculations to convert the diameters and merchantable heights and cull percentages into board foot volume and also tonnage volume. So the result of the volume summary is essentially a spreadsheet in which I'm reporting the volume for each particular species or species group, the volume for each diameter class, and then the volume for each diameter class within the species. And then I will also include notes on the pulpwood volume. So we have both footage and tonnage accounted for. Next then is the marketing, and here's where I make the most noise, where I like to be noticed on behalf of my landowner. I like to use the competitive sealed bid sale. That's what I'm known for. It does make the most racket in the marketplace, if you want to put it that way. And it is when I put out a timber sale notice, for instance, many times to 100 different buyers for any given timber sale. Different consultants send out to different numbers of buyers, so don't let that number bother you. But I like to get things fairly thoroughly saturated to where I know both loggers and mills will be talking about my timber sale. I also put a lot of emphasis on regional marketing. I have fairly commonly sold to mills that are 150 miles away from the particular tract at times. Now that's not the norm, but it does happen from time to time. So the marketing effort is basically a timber bid invitation, or sometimes called a bid prospectus. That includes information about, first off, who I am working for. It includes a timber show date, that being a particular date and time where I meet the buyers at some landmark, and then I drive them out to the tract and I walk them through the woods. Quite a few buyers will stick with me for as long as I or as long as they want to walk. Some buyers are there just to look at access, and then they will tend to return to do a timber cruise of their own kind. I will normally have a 2-week to 4-week period in between the timber show date and the next step, the timber bid date. That interval of time is meant to give the timber buyers time to do their own measurement activities. And before a bid date, I'll ask the buyers in attendance for questions that are better asked now rather than after a bid. And 1 to 2 minutes before, I'll walk around and accept the envelopes. At bid time, I begin to open the envelopes and read them out publicly to those who are in attendance. Quite often that means the landowner is with me, not always, but sometimes. And then the couple of buyers, usually the more serious buyers, are there in person to see how this bid turns out. Normally, we take the high bidder. I'll get back to that subject in just a moment. So we have, at that point, we have a known timber buyer, and we have a known amount. So that's the point that we've been working towards all this time. Also included in this bid prospectus is a description of timber, of logistics, and of access. I also include a discussion on my standards of utilization that I've used during my timber measurement process. And then also there are 2 important disclaimers or qualifiers that I include in every bid. One is that my volume is not actually a guaranteed volume. I spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to work as hard and as well and as thoroughly as I can during the measurement of the timber, but different mills can have different standards of utilization, and they will use those for their own evaluation. So I do want for all of my buyers to know that I have cruised in a certain way, and that it is not necessarily a guaranteed volume. The other qualifier is that the seller retains the right to reject and refuse any or all bids. That is to protect my landowner in case of a disastrous bid or perhaps a market collapse. It also gives us the right to take, for instance, a second high bidder when we might have issues or problems with the high bidder. All of these things have happened now in my 36 years of doing this. It seems like every combination of events has happened, and well, as soon as I say that, then something new is going to come along and bite us. But anyway, those 2 disclaimers are very important language to include in any bid. Now, I do have a different method of selling. This is less known and it's considerably quieter, but that's the direct negotiation. Some sales can demand more attention for, let's call it specialty issues. And I might want to match those specialty issues or concerns with a particular buyer. The most common reason that I do this is concerns over water quality. If I've got a particularly liable tract to provide water quality problems, I might very well want to contact directly a particular buyer, maybe even request a particular crew that would match that tract very, very well. And in that case, we might choose a negotiated route and allow them time to make an offer to us. And if that offer is satisfactory, then we accept that offer. So, and that gets us to the point again that we've been working for, and that is who is ready to buy our timber and for how much. So in either case, the sealed bid or the direct negotiation, we have reached the same point: who and how much. So now is my time I like to cover this. Of course, I'm working on behalf of the landowner, so the language is on behalf of the landowner. The landowner has the chance to look at this, has the chance to consult an attorney if that's what they choose to do. Likewise, I will hand it to the timber buyer. They've got their time to look over the language and make sure that it's satisfactory for them. And sometimes there's a bit of back and forth, maybe a couple of drafts are necessary. There are certain things that I will be happy to be negotiable on when it comes to contract language. There are some issues, though, that I feel called to stand firm on. So each different tract has its own concerns and its own specialty issues, so I want to get those covered as well as I can in a timber sale contract. And then that brings us to the closing of that contract. The sale itself, the signatures, the execution of that timber sale contract. And that is on the same day that payment in full, lump sum up front, is made to my landowners. So all of the money changes hands on the day of the timber sale contract closing. Long before any harvest equipment is in the woods, and everything has been done at that point. However, there is follow-up work. Of course, the harvest being the biggest portion of that, it is my duty at that point then to keep an eye on the harvest. Now, I do not pretend to be a logging crew supervisor. That's the job of someone else who is there on behalf of the timber buyer. However, I do like to keep track of the requirements that we have asked for in our timber sale contract and speak on behalf of my landowner on those issues. As that timber harvest wraps up then, my timber harvest inspections will tend to pick up, as we've got a lot of duties that involve your best management practices. For instance, your water bars, your sowing, and so forth. And once we get everything satisfied, then and only then can I turn the performance deposit loose and return that performance deposit to the timber buyer. A performance deposit is a sum of money, usually a few thousands of dollars. I would just say $1,500 to $8,000, something in that range, that the consultant keeps in the escrow account. That amount of money is meant to ensure performance of the lay-by work, meaning the best management practices and the water bars, to make sure that we get those before the timber sale is completely wrapped up. Once all of those requirements have been satisfied, then I can return that performance deposit. Is that return of the performance deposit that is the end of the timber harvest, and it is the end of my duties. So there you have it. Consulting forestry through the timber sale administration process. Again, meant for private landowners by the foresters that they choose to hire. And I thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode of 15 Minutes in the Forest. And thank you to Kevin Belt for sharing his time and expertise with us.